Thanks very much indeed. Security staff are preparing for millions of people to pay their respects to the late monarch in the capital, as Transport bosses confirmed that extra train services will be running for people travelling to London.
Well, let's speak to Jonathan Swain, who's on Lambeth Bridge for us this morning. Morning to you, Jonathan. So, some 3 million people are expected to descend on the capital. We're going to be speaking to Lady Sarah Hoy later, the wife of Sir Chris Hoy, who queued for 11 hours yesterday to see the Queen at St Giles Cathedral, and she was willing to do that. The expectation for the queue to see the Queen in London, though, is significantly more, isn't it?
Morning, Ben. I wanted to say, yes, it is. I am in the queue here at the front of the queue. We have probably just a small handful to my right. We'll go and speak to them in a moment. Some people have been here around 12 hours or so already, but let me just show you where we are, give you a bit of the geography, shall we, of this queue, because Her Majesty the Queen will be lying in state in Westminster Hall over there at the Palace of Westminster, and then people will be queuing from Victoria Gardens, which is just to the left. That's where the bags drop will be, for example. That will be the official start of the queue, where there'll be places to leave luggage, and then the queue will snake round over Lambeth Bridge. And let me just cut to the graphic, shall we, to show you that once the queue is over Lambeth Bridge, it'll then snake all the way along the River Thames towards Westminster Bridge, and then it'll basically snake its way through London, and pretty much the end of the queue at the moment we're anticipating will be near the Tate Gallery. We already have sort of police officers lining the sort of route here at the moment as well. But look, this is the moment we've all been waiting for. Let's go to the front of the queue, shall we? Because a handful of people have been here since yesterday. This is Vanessa. Here we have Anne from Wales, and we've got Grace there as well. Morning to you all. Let's talk to you, Vanessa. You're the very first person, very front of the queue. Why did you come so early?
I originally planned to come on Wednesday morning. I went for a walk as usual, going past the Parliament, so I inquired from a couple of policemen where the queue going to be starting. So they directed me to the stewards. I went around up to the Lambeth Bridge and asked them as well, a couple of stewards, and here they said it's going to be from here.
Were you prepared for a long wait? And that's the thing.
The original plan was Wednesday morning, but then I was carrying some snacks and a bottle of water and the fruit I
thought, why not? I'm here. Let's stay here.
Yeah, it's just an instant decision. I thought I'll just.
Do you have enough stuff?
Yes, and kindly Anne's. Not really. Anne's friend was bringing food and coffee for the night, and also blanket and.
Let's talk to Anne then, your friend, because you're making friends here, aren't you? So
yes,
it's a bit like the sort of Wimbledon queue, isn't it, really?
Now,
and you're from Cardiff. You just had quite an emotional couple of hours.
Yes, it's eerily reminiscent of Princess Diana's funeral. We went over at 4:30, Vanessa and I. We watched the rehearsals, the gun carriage, and the guards, the pallbearers, the bands, and it was eerily reminiscent of the sounds of the boots on the gravel. No sound, eerily quiet, and really heartbreaking to think that's the Queen going in. You know, that is it.
It's quite a thing to witness, wasn't it, in the middle, just a couple of hours ago. And Grace, was last you, looking very splendid there with the Union Jack around you. What's it been for you to be here then? I mean, why would you want to join the queue so early?
Yeah, because she's been a good woman. She's going to be a good woman. She's worked hard. She loves so everybody. Everyone also loves her. So it's hard. It's really, really sad to lose her. I hope King Charles will take his mom's footsteps and do the same thing. And then, as the public like his mom, we hope he is going to be a good king as his mom. So we came here just to pay our respect of her passing away. We will miss her very, very much. If you don't like her, we won't be here all night, sleeping on a bed, living our own bed.
Well, I absolutely admire your resilience and your enthusiasm as well, because it is from 5 o'clock tomorrow on Wednesday, isn't it, when the doors open. You can finally go and pay your respects to Her Majesty the Queen. But look, this is the front of the queue as we speak, and I'm sure many thousands more are going to start joining the queue very shortly.
Jonathan, is it officially the front of the queue?
This is officially the front of the queue. Yeah, they've been told to wait here. Obviously, there are, I won't show you, but there's portaloos that have been set up for them as well. There are sort of stewards around as well, just all the police officers. So this is where they have been told to start the queue, because I suppose, like, if I could just show the camera that way, you know, you're into Lambeth Bridge then, aren't you, really? And, you know, there's traffic issues sort of there. And what's happening at the moment, just to the side of the Palace of Westminster at Victoria Gardens, what's been set up there is a bag drop. There's, you know, loos that have been set up there. So they need to keep people away from that area until it's all fully set up. But yeah, this is it, officially the front of the queue.
How many people
a
there?
queue jumper.
Yes, exactly. Well, how many people are there? We've heard from your guests. Is there anyone else? Because I can imagine now people know where it is.
They're still going to start flocking.
They're going to start arriving.
Well, I'll show you. We have 3, 4, and there's a gentleman at the back called Brian, who we're going to talk to later on, just sitting on the wall there. And that's it. There's about 4 or 5 of them here at the moment. I probably was expecting there to be a few more, actually, considering we're talking about potentially, what the latest figures are, potentially 3 million people here over the next few days. But as I say, it's a long wait, isn't it? Because the opening of the Lining State doesn't happen until 5 p.m. tomorrow.
It's a huge commitment to get there that early and to wait overnight. And as you say, Jonathan, you're going to get round to Victoria Gardens, and then you're going to have to do a bag drop because you're going to take a small bag into the hall itself as well. So the logistics for it and the admin to try and make sure everybody gets through safely and securely and smoothly is huge. We'll be back with Jonathan a little bit later on this morning.
And mourners can begin to file past the coffin from 5 o'clock this evening, pay their respects, with hundreds of thousands of people expected to do so over a 4-day period.
Wednesday, 14th of September 2022, live from Television Centre in London. This is Good Morning Britain.
The Queen's coffin rested overnight in the Bowroom, where she'd entertained so many guests down the decades. At 2:22 p.m. today, she'll be taken on a gun carriage of the King's Troop Royal Horse Artillery. The King, his 2 sons, Princes William and Harry, and other members of the royal family will walk behind. The procession will travel along the Mall, through Horse Guards and onto Whitehall, before arriving at Westminster Hall, where the Queen will lie in state for 4 days.
People are expected to queue for many hours to get the chance to view the Queen's coffin at Westminster Hall from 5 o'clock tonight. The queue, some say, could stretch at least 5 miles.
Well, let's have a look at the scene at the Albert Embankment over the river from Parliament. This was at 2 o'clock this morning. People waiting in the rain. Many with umbrellas, some with tents, in the hope to be amongst the first to pay their respects. Jonathan Swain is there now. Jonathan, you're watching. I imagine the crowd's building up.
Yes, once Saturday morning, Martin. Yeah, several hundred people are now in the queue just south of the river. It stretches from where we are here at Lambeth Bridge all the way towards Westminster Bridge, and it is growing all the time. Say several hundred people are here as well. A lovely atmosphere. There's police from all around the country that have been drafted in to help. We have volunteers from the British Red Cross that I've just been speaking to as well. We have this lovely lady who's travelled from Somerset, morning to you as well, who's in the queue. And Glyn, you're in the queue as well. Give us a sense of what it means to you to be here.
Well, it's a fabulous occasion. It's not... Fabulous is probably the wrong word to use, actually. It's a very emotional but proud reason for being here, to pay our respects to Her Majesty. Almost later on it will be like having a spiritual private audience with Her Majesty, to bow your head and say thank you. And it's important to be here, and it was the right thing to do.
Good, thank you very much indeed. You're about 30th in the queue, so you're pretty much very close to the front. I should just show you the route really of the queue. It obviously stretches from here at Lambeth Bridge all the way along to Westminster Bridge, passing Waterloo, passing the Tate as well, and they think the end of the queue, potentially later on today, could well be Southwark Park as well. Well, let's just come back to us live here, shall we? Because we are at the very front of the queue. queue, and I couldn't end the programme and the broadcast without introducing fabulous ladies who are the very first at the front of the queue. We saw them yesterday. Morning, Grace, again, and we've got Vanessa, and we've got Anne. How are we all? You okay?
Fine.
And you had a very special visit yesterday from the Archbishop of York, and you sang for him.
We had a chance encounter with him. We asked him, how are you? He said he's busy getting ready for the preparations ahead. We invited him to sing one of Her Late Majesty's songs, Praise My Soul, the King of Heaven, and he did so. But he didn't need to read the words from the programme.
He knew them all off heart,
He knew
did he?
them by heart.
Okay, well, I should just say they have become pretty much celebrities, interviewed by everybody from around the world. And in fact, a lady just turned up from Yorkshire, just said that she was inspired to join the queue after seeing Grace, Vanessa and Anne on the TV yesterday. So it is going to be a wonderful occasion here, I have to say, and it's been so lovely to be part of it here this morning.
Oh, thank you so much, Jonathan. And I am not going to interrogate you about queue logistics this time. You did such a good job last time. We'll leave it there. Thank you.
15th of September 2022.
Front pages cover all different aspects of the very poignant scenes yesterday. They all have pictures and details of the Queen lying in state, and the Mail reports some focuses on the people filing past the coffin to pay their respects. It says the first person allowed into Westminster Hall, Vanessa, had camped out since Monday. And we're going to be speaking to her later in the show.
Yeah, a friend of the show. We've been talking to her since Monday as well. She went for a walk, decided to stay.
Just got moved and thought, right, I'm going to see this through.
Amazing. The Times this morning says the wait is over for the nation to pay its respects to the Queen. It describes how the King was united with his two sons walking behind her coffin during yesterday's procession. It says it was the first time that all three have been photographed together since her death.
The Daily Mirror's main picture highlights what it described as the pain etched on the faces of William and Harry as they continue their mourning. The front page also predicts 1 million people could pay their respects over the next few days. Already comments about that headline, though, pride and the pain, and it can be interpreted in many different ways, can't it?
Here's the Sun for you this morning. The same photo with the headline, "We share your pain." It says the faces of Prince William and Prince Harry, as well as their wives Kate and Meghan, were etched in.
They had queued for hours, some even for days and nights, for a few seconds with their Queen. People of all faiths and people of none, paying their respects in whatever way they chose.
To watch.
Well, earlier this week we met Vanessa, Grace and Anne, who made it their duty to be the very first, to pay their respects to the Queen.
They arrived from Monday afternoon, more than 48 hours before the start of the lying in state. They kept their spirits high by chatting and singing as the queue behind them grew, and the three women were the very first through the doors at Westminster Hall yesterday afternoon.
This is the moment that they finally, after all those hours of waiting, got to pay their respects to the Queen.
Well, Vanessa and Grace join us in the studio, while Anne joins us from Cardiff. Good morning to all of you. What was that moment like?
Vanessa.
It was a sad experience. I felt like I was the only person when I entered, and I'm very happy that I was the first person to be there, and the experience was it was most memorable thing that I will be cherishing and telling the stories later on, and I will keep it in my mind till my...
Grace, you had waited for such a long time, the three of you particularly, Vanessa being there first. Was it what you'd hoped it to be?
Yes, when I arrived, before then, when Vanessa phoned me, and I said to her, "Where are you?" She said, "Grace, I don't know. You be prepared." So I was home when she phoned, and I took bus from Mitcham, bus 77, going
from South London,
yeah, South London. Eventually, I got to South Lambeth Bridge, and I didn't know where it is because I was expecting the queue starting there. There was nobody there. So she said, "You come down." I went downstairs, and I saw Vanessa and Anne sitting down. I said, "Where is the queue?" And I asked the security. He said, "You are in the queue."
You are the queue.
You are the
You are
queue.
the
You're
queue.
the start
I said,
of it.
"What is the queue?" "You are in the queue. You are third in the queue." I said, "Oh, so Grace the third."
Yeah.
Started. So we were there. I arrived at 4:30 p.m. I thought I was going to go back home. They said, "No, you are not going." What?
You're in there. You're right for the start.
So you didn't realise you were going to have to stay overnight?
Stay in the night, and I asked them, when do we have to go home? They said, "You are here for 3 days." I said,
Have you slept since? Have you slept now?
"No."
Oh my
But a
goodness.
certain experiences, I have experienced how to be a homeless.
Yeah, well, of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's extraordinary.
And
I mean, should we just have a quick word with Anne, who is there with you as well? She's
Yes,
in
okay.
Cardiff this morning. Anne, my goodness, you were there at the start. You've now had that moment. What was it like when you finally filed through?
Yes. Oh, hello, good morning. Borada from Cardiff. Yes, it was a memorable experience. I haven't got much of a voice because we sang for 3 days for the crowds. It was overwhelming experience, really. We got so wet one night when our gazebo collapsed with the rain that we sought refuge in St Thomas's Hospital along Lambeth Bridge there. But it was quite amazing, as Grace said, because when I got there, I arrived at 11:30 on Monday. I was the second person there. Vanessa was there at 11, just 5 minutes before me. And then Grace came in 16:30 in the afternoon. And we were shocked. We thought, well, where are we in the wrong place? You know, there were only 3 of us there. So we I think I can hear her singing again. But the overwhelming kindness from the people around the world, the neighbours, they brought us blankets, food. Actually, people travelled down because they said we were an inspiration to them. One gentleman by the name of Morgan, he travelled from Manchester. He arrived in the middle of the night with a hamper of food for us.
Goodness me.
Because he said he was inspired by us. Another lady travelled with her daughter from near Scotland to say to Mr. Jonathan Swain, the broadcaster, he was present as a witness, to say that, you know, they too were inspired to come down and they brought us food. So we were well nourished, you know, but mentally it was quite a challenge to be sleeping on a pavement, you know, with for your structure of your body. That is why I came back late last night to have one night in my own bed.
So Anne, can I ask then, considering the physical toil that you all went through, and it seems like Grace wasn't expecting to have to stay out overnight, so I mean, it's even more impressive that you did stay there for the 48 hours or so that you were there. What was that moment like when you walked into Westminster Hall and you saw the Queen lying in state?
Well, it's something I'll have in my memory for the rest of my life. I was, you know, funny expression, but I was literally stuck in my dead of tracks, or blown away by the crown, the imperial state crown, a meeting Black Rod, the traditional clothes they wear, you know, inside that building, the building itself. It's like going back in history 1,000 years. And, you know, to see Her Majesty's coffin and the orb and the sceptre, the glittering crown, it just mesmerising. And then we paid our respects, and we mournfully, we made our way around and made our way out. But it was just an unforgettable experience. I still think I'm out. I'm there now. You know, it hasn't sunk in what we actually did. We're watching the television. Go ahead.
No, I was saying it's a huge experience, and I bet lack of sleep as well. It will take time for it to sink in, but the whole experience, including that one moment, is going to live with you. And as you say, you've inspired others. A final word to the two of you as well. There will be people now joining the queue this morning, maybe not with the stamina that you've had to do nearly 3 days. What would you say to them about sticking with it? Has it all been worth it? No.
Even if it's a long wait, it's worth the wait. So keep going, be strong, and it's a moment of part of the history. So I'm sure we will get through that and just enter that and get the experience of it.
And you'd agree with that, Grace?
Yes.
And will you listen to Vanessa when she says, come down and meet me, I've got a good idea for the next few days next time? Or will you go, we're not staying out, are we?
Pack a suitcase.
No.
Well, I think all three of you need a long sleep and time to think about it. But wonderful to talk to you this morning.
And thank you for sharing your journey. Jonathan was with you. Jonathan's one of our colleagues here, and I know how much he enjoyed meeting the three of you as well over the course of the last week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Moment in Westminster Hall. The building will be closed for approximately an hour, and then the first members of the public, many of whom have been queuing already for several nights, will be allowed in to file past the coffin. Last night, Her Majesty rested at Buckingham Palace, her last night in the residence that she knew throughout her 96 years. Focus of private family grief. But that now changes to public grief, as her subjects have the chance to pay their respects. Thought as many as 750,000 people may pass through here between now and the state funeral on Monday. Well, some of the people that we're seeing coming in now have been queuing for 2 nights, waiting to ensure their place very front of the line of those anxious to spend a moment walking around the coffin. I never know what this means to each and every person here. Respect for the monarch. Perhaps also transference of personal grief.